It's hard to do those because it's potentially unethical. I'm sure you've heard sitting as new smoking. That's gained some popularity, which I think for good reason. I would agree. In my opinion, it's malpractice.
Interesting. You would even put it in that category, huh?
I would go that far to say it's borderline malpractice.
What's a ridiculous excuse that you heard people say why they can't move well anymore?
Oh man, a lot of times I'm just getting old. You know, everyone has that excuse. We're all aging literally every day. But I found some very high level active individuals who are in their older ages doing really well. And what's common is they're always moving a lot and they're eating really well. So I don't really care for that excuse. I think people use it a lot. We are aging every day, but it's really how we take care of ourselves. So a lot of people want to blame their age for how poorly they've taken care of their body for the last decade or whatever it is.
Can you give me an example of someone who's in their older age and they're moving really well?
Yeah, several of my clients, 70s to 90s, but I'd say one that stands out is a good friend of mine's dad. He comes up to Winter Park. We ski together all the time. We're hitting double blacks and all that. And he's 60.
Double blacks?
Yep. So he's 68. We hike 14ers together, but he's always stayed active. He was a cycler. He plays intramural soccer leagues in his 50s, He just stays active and he takes care of his body.
Do you know when he started? Or has he been like that
I've
all
known
his
him
life?
since he was, 30, 35, and he was a cycler and he played soccer then. So just a lot of cardio, trying to convince him to get some more weight training in these days. But yeah, he's always been pretty active.
So if someone is always injured, right, is the problem really their body or is it something else?
Yeah, so it could be their body, right? There could be some autoimmune disorders, maybe some hypermobility or EDS on board. But if someone's frequently getting injured or getting hurt or feeling pain, things like that, more often than not, it's people that don't have all the basics dialed in, right? So they're not sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. They're not drinking half their body weight in fluid ounces of water. They're not eating a gram per pound of body weight of protein, eating fruits and veggies. So they're not really taking care of the nutrition side and the recovery side. That's what I see clinically in my experience is those people who are typically have a lot of chronic pain or have frequent injuries. They might be trying to work out or stay active, but they're not doing the basics at home.
Can we talk more about those basics? Let's make a list so that,
Sure.
people, and let's make it more of a action oriented as well, so that people can execute them immediately.
Yeah.
So how about let's start with, the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, it comes to mind is sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night. There's a lot of different sleep hygiene tips, keeping the room colder, keeping the room just for sex and sleep, limiting screen time before bed. We're all pretty bad about that one. A lot of people want to scroll in bed and then think they're going to pass out. So I believe recommendation is 2 hours prior, no backlight, blue light, things like that. So just getting rid of the screens or TVs prior to bed. It's going to be super helpful. Outside of sleep, nutritionally, getting at least 5 servings of fruits and veggies per day to get enough fiber and enough variety in the gut to help the microbiome. 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein is a general recommendation. You could argue 0.8 to 1.2, so we keep it simple with 1 gram. And I think it's important to point out that used to be kilogram. So we've went from kilogram to pound, so it's a significant jump in protein recommendations, but that's current. So nutritionally, we talked about protein, fruits and veggies, water intake. So general recommendation is going to be half your body weight in fluid ounces. So I don't see athletes having that same problem, but a lot of people in general, especially those desk workers, aren't drinking much water at all, if any. They might just drink coffee in the morning, maybe a soda at lunch, beer for dinner, right? Like we're not drinking nearly enough water.
Is it really necessary to drink a gallon?
I don't think so. I think that's overkill for a lot of people. And that depends on your activity level. If you're working out several hours per day, you're sweating and you're losing a lot, it's important to replenish those fluids, but also replenish electrolytes. So for athletes, I'm not having them chugging gallons of water. I'm having them supplement with electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know there are a few times where I'd be drinking a gallon because I keep drinking coffee.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, I get a headache, and I didn't know that I flushed all my electrolytes. So I'm here chugging electrolytes at the gym. Yeah. So what else?
Oh, for the stuff basics. At home, the basics.
Yeah.
We talked about sleep, protein, enough fiber, water. Excellent. Stress management is huge, right? We live in like a high stress environment. Everything's, ramping up the nervous system. A lot of lifestyle factors included in that, but stress management is huge.
Can exercise be stressful?
Yeah, it can certainly tax the nervous system and be stressful in the moment. The literature supports that after workout is always going to be lower levels of cortisol and other stress hormones. So although you can increase that cortisol level while you're working out, the benefits of it are paid after the workout.
Would you say that if you're already taxed at work, family, and life in general, and you come and do, let's say, do a CrossFit workout or a super, super intense weightlifting session, is it better to just say, go to sleep instead of working out?
Good question. I would always say it's important to work out. So I would always, in my experience, it's always felt better after a workout. Not many people regret a workout, right? You always generally feel better. Lots of hormones are released there. But I think those are different stressors. I think the lifestyle, the kiddos, the work stressors, that's a little more mental and cognitive stressors, whereas this is, in this environment, it's going to be more physical stress. Most people at work, depending on their career, if they're working at a desk, they're not being stressed physically, right? And so I think we need that systemic stress physically to get those benefits. So yeah, I would always argue if you're going to work out or not, choose the workout. But if we're working out close to sleep, try to be at least 2 hours from that.
So that being said, we can put exercise in that basic category.
Yeah. 100%. I think a basic number is meeting physical activity guidelines. 150 minutes, moderate to vigorous activity, or 75 plus of vigorous. It's not that much to hit. Right. Those are physical activity guidelines put out by CDC years ago. It was World Health Organization, I believe in 24, put out that only 1 in 3 adults are hitting that. And then 80% of adolescents are not hitting that.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem right now.
Yeah, because we come to a CrossFit gym and it's a bubble, right?
Yeah.
For us, we see everyone working out all the time, and we think, if you're not careful, you'll think this is the norm, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is mind-boggling to me is that there's a statistic somewhere there. Don't quote me on this, but I think they said like the average American man can't do like 10 consecutive push-ups. And
wild.
That's wild to me. That's super sad.
Not good. Imagine falling. Can you get off the floor? Can't do a push-up. Probably not getting off the floor.
Yeah.
Sheesh. It's going to make it that much harder. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. You want to talk about myths?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So what are some myths that you've heard about PT that, you'd like to debunk?
A lot come to mind. Some simple ones that check off the top are going to be more like legislation and legalities. So for physical therapy in Colorado, you don't need a referral from your physician. We have direct access, meaning if you hurt your shoulder, you can just come see me. There's a lot of benefits to that, and we're well trained to rule out other issues that aren't musculoskeletal in nature. We can also order imaging, so that's super helpful if we need that. Because the traditional model, if you get hurt, and you may have experienced this, let's say you tweak your shoulder, tweak your back, you're going to try to go see doc just to get an order. Doc is probably going to give you maybe a muscle relaxer, some kind of pharmaceutical, because it's pretty simple for him to write a script, him or her. Maybe some imaging, some x-rays, and then they're going to send you to PT. What if we could just go see PT that day or the next day? Way more effective. And I'd argue we're saving a lot of time and a lot of money in that regard. So not having a referral, most people think you do. That's state dependent. So every state's going to be a little bit different. Another myth, this is in the PT realm. I feel like I get this a lot. Patients or clients want imaging. They're like, well, wait till we get an MRI so we know what's going on. Let's go get an x-ray so we know what's going on. How do you know what's going on? We're trained on a lot of different clinical examinations, clinical tests and measures that we do to help us figure out what's going on. And the harmful part about imaging is if it's not a significant fracture or ruling out some kind of tumor or anything like that that's more serious, imaging is usually going to show something, but it's whether that is correlated to your symptoms or not. So an example, there's some crazy stats on this, but then the numbers are going to range based on age, of course, but let's say they did thousands of MRIs and looked back at it. So people who had no back pain, they did MRIs. Out of everyone with no back pain, by the age 50, 80% are going to show degenerative disc changes. At age 50, I think it was 30 or 40% are going to show a disc herniation or a disc bulge. And so those are people with no back pain. So that just tells us imaging does not explain our pain. And it's multifactorial. There's a lot of issues that can go into those pain experiences, and related to stuff we hit on earlier, the nutrition, the lifestyle, the stressors, the sleep, the alcohol use, the trauma. Maybe people had trauma in their childhood, and that's leading into their pain now. Body Keeps the Score. It's a great book, but the body does keep the score. So I think that's another myth. People think they need imaging to know what's going on, right? But educated and experienced clinicians can typically find that out. And to be honest, we don't always need to know. We don't need to know, is it supraspinatus? Is it infraspinatus? Whatever it is, most people need to get some movement going and need to have some guidance on some safe movements that feel good for them and things that they can load up and rebuild capacity in those tissues. More myths?
More myths.
Let's hit a couple more. One of them I get a lot is about having surgery, like we need surgery, or that maybe surgery is more effective than physical therapy. That really comes down to what the issue is. Certainly, if you cracked your femur in half, we should get that repaired surgically. We should put some plates and screws and things to get it all back together. But generally speaking, I'll reference another book by an orthopedic surgeon. It's called Surgery, the Ultimate Placebo. It's a great book. It just chats about all the factors that go into surgical outcomes. And they've done a lot of placebo studies. However, it's hard to do those because it's potentially unethical, right? We're telling people that we're getting their meniscus repaired, but we're not repairing it. We're going in arthroscopically, cutting in the skin, but we're not repairing the meniscus. But what's interesting is the outcomes are essentially the same. So there's a lot of surgeries that aren't actually better than just physical therapy alone. And the top ones that come to mind are going to be meniscal repair in the knee, rotator cuff repair in the shoulder. Those are top two, and you could argue certainly some lumbar spine surgeries as well.
Why are they saying get a surgery when they know that's the result?
Good question. There's a lot of money to be made.
A lot of money?
A lot of money to be made.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, we could dive real deep on that. Unfortunately, I've experienced quite a bit of that in the medical system, and there is quite a bit of corruption up top, right? A lot of people are making money from pharmaceuticals. A lot of people are making money from surgeries. I'm not saying surgery is not effective. I'm not saying surgery is not indicated at times, but it's heavily overused, just like pharmaceuticals. There's a study recently about 70 to 90% of people with disc herniations heal without surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we know now we need mechanical pumping of fluid around the disc, since there's not direct blood supply to the disc, but we need more movement. We need safe movement. We need proper exercise prescription, things like that. But just going in there and shaving a piece of the disc isn't always the answer. And 70-90% could heal without surgery.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about your background.
With my experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically growing up, I remember having some amount of low back pain. I was maybe elementary school, middle school aged, and I went to a doc, and they basically had me lay on my stomach and raise my arms out like a Superman move and just hold it. And I held it for over a minute, and he's like, yeah, you're good. So that was kind of their testing. He's like, I think you're good. I think it's your backpack, right? So we adjusted backpacks, we held it a little bit higher, things like that. I managed. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't until college where I was playing intramural softball. May have been a certain rotational movement or something that was kind of the last straw, but I remember waking up, couldn't get out of bed, severe back pain. Thankfully, nothing down my legs. It was all localized to my spine, no radicular symptoms or sciatica or anything like that. But that was when I really got to experience what most people experience with acute low back pain. Acute meaning it just happened, right? There's an injury, there's a specific mechanism, so it was acute. So I went in, didn't have health insurance, right? I'm a college student. I went into the on-campus medical facility. It was a older, overweight nurse or nurse practitioner who I saw, and She told me, I explained the situation, my symptoms. It was a pretty quick exam, like most people will experience, maybe 5 minutes or so. She prescribed me muscle relaxers. She ordered an x-ray, which showed a little bit of scoliosis, which wasn't relevant, right? But we picked up a finding. It wasn't relevant at the time. And she told me not to lift more than 5 pounds. So I was lifting every day, 5 to 7 days a week, on campus gym. I was playing intramurals, flag, basketball, softball. We're benching 250 plus pounds, squatting more. Like 5 pounds is a gallon of milk. The most frustrating part was she said I shouldn't lift more than 5 pounds. She gave me a printout of some outdated exercises, something to do with stretching my hip and stretching my low back, which is another topic we could chat about, stretching. But the 5 pound limit, the hardest part about that, and I see this time and time again, there's no deadline on that. We never talked about how long should that 5 pound restriction be. Now, if she was to say, don't deadlift 250 today, that's a different and more acceptable accommodation. But for her to say, don't lift more than 5 pounds and leave it at that, that's harmful. That's harmful because then it gets in my head, gets in people's heads like, I can't lift. I'm fragile. I'm going to rupture something. Spine's just going to blow up. People have these thoughts. But yeah, then I got an MRI, and then that was devastating because they found 3 bulges, and then that got in my head, right? I stopped lifting. I stopped playing those rotational sports. I was nervous. Over this time, this is a couple months that went by, things got better, right? Naturally. But I got to a point where I was numbing it. I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I was a server at the time, carrying a lot of heavy trays, ice buckets, syrup boxes, etc. I would just numb it, just drink, go to work, serve tables. It was a bad time of that phase of life, dealing with back pain. And it honestly wasn't until a really good physical therapist named Randy Spence down in Texas. I was working with her as a PT technician, trying to get into school. She was like, I think you just need to get back to it. I think you need to like mentally get back. Let's play some sand volleyball. Let's heavy lifting again. In the moment, I was a little frustrated. I was like, she doesn't know. She doesn't know how bad this sucks. Like, she doesn't know what I'm going through. Turns out she did. She's experienced it. She's dealt with thousands of people who experienced it. And her advice was the best advice because as soon as I started lifting again, essentially it was gone. I mean, it took a little bit, a couple months. But yeah, now I manage it with weightlifting. I've been, I joined y'all's gym. So I get a lot of load there, a lot of volume. And that's the best thing for my spine. It's the best I've ever felt is staying active in the gym and working out.